What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty P here with another episode of Steelers Touchdown Under. Sorry, I've been a bit slow on content this week, but I wanted to talk to you about whether training camp has been a success for the Steelers. Whether training camp in Latrobe. Obviously, the Steelers will continue their training camp in the city of Pittsburgh at their usual training facilities, but they're finishing up and wrapping up their time at St. Vincent's in Latrobe. And so this is a really important thing that was kind of thinking on my mind. Was it a success or was it a failure? Now, this is kind of an interesting one because from my perspective, and they've got the line here, got the offense, got the defense. It's kind of interesting because I think the Steelers, we're not going to know whether training camp has been a success or not till the end of the season. That's when you're going to ultimately get the judge in the performance of whether it has been a success or not. However, it's kind of, there was some objectives that I think we wanted to see out of the Steelers. One, were they starting to learn the new offense? Two, were they, was the defensive secondary coming together? Three, was the Steelers' offensive line being able to gel? And it's hard to determine that with the Furtado situation, but it sounds like it with them saying that he should be the starter at right tackle, according to all reports. We wanted to know about quarterback. We haven't really been able to determine that either because of the situation with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. So it's kind of hard to sit there and say, hey, this has been like a great success for the Steelers. But it doesn't mean that it has been a failure. And this is the kind of thing that I've been thinking about over the last sort of 48 hours. This is hard. Look, all this news is coming out. We're hearing these different tidbits, how they're coming together. We heard it last year. We heard how successful everything was going. And we saw the Steelers go 3-0 in the preseason. And they got to week one, and it was a big flop. I do feel different about this team this year. I do feel like they've got it. I do feel like they're starting to come together. I do feel like some of the holes are starting to be filled. I do feel like some of the young guys are showing they can step up. It was really disappointing to see Fahoko, go on IR. It's been really disappointing to see some of the other guys, that have had these injury clouds over through camp, or they're not going to play. It's disappointing that Holcomb's not fully back to full health. Now they're looking at Matty and Mark Robinson fighting for that fourth spot. I really hope that was just going to be Holcomb, Wilson, Peyton Wilson, Patrick Queen, Atlanta Roberts. I thought that was going to be hopefully that was going to be the starting force. So especially after last year with the linebackers. So it's kind of a mixed feeling. Like it's hard to say whether it's success. It's hard to say whether it's a failure. I feel like what the needle on the gauge is swinging more to the success element. I really, really do. But we're not going to know. I think the other thing is that like the game against the Bills this weekend, I think that's a really important sort of measuring stick to how far they've come. Have they been able to, after playing the game on the weekend, go back into Latrobe, hunker down, go? Tomlin said they were really sloppy. They were. I said my reaction after for the first game out, I didn't hate it. They blew the cobwebs off a little bit. But like you look back on it, there's heaps of things you want to pick apart. It's a lot easier to see negatives than it is to see positives in anything in life. And I think from the Steelers fans, going through what we've been through over the last few years in terms of thinking things are bouncing back or thinking the Steelers are going to finally get back into the playoff winners circle, and then it hasn't happened. We're probably all a little bit of becoming a bit of a jaded fan base. And I get that. Like I'm the first part of that. But we've got to remain positive. And as I said, like when you go back and look at this, is it a success or is it a failure? And I want you to let me know in the comments what you think. I think a few other things. We've seen the defense continue to evolve. We've seen the defensive line guys step up. It's been good to see Liao step up. We obviously know Benton is going to be really key for them this year. Ogunjobi, the jury's still out on him, whether he's going to get back to anything that he's ever done before. But they're being careful there. The tight ends are working in well. And it kind of like, you judge the success or failure. People will sort of say, well, what about the whole Ayuk situation and wide receiver 2? It sucks with Roman Wilson's situation. It does suck with Roman Wilson's situation. 100% it sucks. But I think we've seen what we've seen in camp. We saw in that first preseason game with a couple of big plays to Van Jefferson. Pickens is picking things up, in the shadow of not having a number 2 guy. And he seems really mature. He's not worried about Ayuk talk. He said that after camp in an interview. You're seeing the tight ends used. You're seeing that, the running back's going to be used a lot. Dejan Edwards, like, I feel like you've heard nothing about him through camp. It's all been about Jonathan Ward. And then he comes in and absolutely kills it. I'm excited. I'm hoping he's the third guy in the running back room because Cordell Patterson could be slaughtered in there given his previous experience. I know he's there as a kick returner, but they might list him at running back so that they can keep the 5 or 6 wide receivers. Obviously, it was great to see Connor Haywood get a touchdown. So as I said, these tight end sets between Washington, Pat Freiermuth, Haywood, and it'll be interesting to see whether it's like Pruitt's in there or Rodney Williams. when he's fit and healthy again, can get in there. That's going to be an interesting thing too. Don't be surprised when the other teams make all their cuts in the bye week to see the Steelers got new Invisalign retainers, so that's fun today. To see them go get another guy out there, particularly more of a receiving sort of guy. But I am liking where this team is heading, even if the first week wasn't so good. And you know what? If there's a stinker against the Bills, I'm still going to be probably of that opinion. I'll need to see more, in the next game. But I am feeling like this team is heading toward the more successful part. And if as long as they're getting better, and Shannon has talked about that a heap on the Steelers Global Perspective shows we do, that's the main thing for this team. So I'm really pumped about it. I'm still excited about it. I think the Steelers are having to overcome a bit of adversity early, but this is a good practice mentality for later on in the season, because it's going to be a very tough stretch home. We all know that. So from the Steelers' perspective, I think from a fan perspective, for the coaching staff perspective, for the organization, for them to go through some of this now and get more guys on some game time, getting guys more reps, guys that aren't necessarily your set starters. It's not ideal in many ways because you want the guys getting synergy and chemistry, but it is ideal from the perspective of getting guys to step up and be forced into being comfortable in the uncomfortable, as Mike Tomlin always says. But you let me know in the comments, as I said, do you think it's a success? Do you think it's a failure so far in terms of camp and Latrobe, what they've done to date? Do you think they've achieved enough? Where are the gaps? What have you been happy with? What have you not? Let me know in the comments. Will be more content with you across the weekend heading into the game. But as always, go Steelers.